Hello, selectors, and welcome to the Life Burst Podcast. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Tiffany. Welcome back to the Life Burst Podcast, a Wixoss podcast where we talk about all the Wixoss things and only the Wixoss things.
Ooh, we got Wixossy things to talk about this time.
Well, I hope so. That's the whole point of this podcast.
It's true. Hey, just a channel update.
Yeah.
Tiffany.
Yeah.
We're monetized now. How did that happen?
Dude, I don't actually know.
People like listening to us blab, I guess.
Well, thank you, fellow selectors, for listening to us and subscribing to the channel. We appreciate all of your support.
If you want to support us anymore, you can jump on our channel and do a membership. It's a pretty low price point. It's just a way for us to do priority comments and talk to you a little bit more, as well as just to support us, help us get some more cards so that we can bring you guys some wackier deck techs and things like that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
With that out of the way, Tiffany, how was your Wixoss week?
It's fun. We went to the pre-release yesterday.
Yes,
we
did.
A little pre-release party at one of our locals, and we played with some of our friends, and it was a sealed event.
Yes, we called otherwise known as the Scuffed event.
Scuffed. Scuffed.
Guys, it is a wacky time to do sealed in Wixoss.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a little bit of sealed experience now since the last time we've talked about sealed, where we talked about like different deck numbers and things. So I think we're gonna do another like redo video, kind of adjusting those numbers and talking about the things that we've learned since then. But man, it is wacky.
Yes. So my experience with it is this. If you are a longtime listener of the podcast, you will know that I'm not super great at building decks all by myself.
Yeah, you're more of a player.
Yeah, I'm a deck pilot. I'm not really a deck builder person. And oh boy, this was a challenge for me. There were 5 players and I ended up getting 4th. But it was still super fun because, like, if you've ever played sealed events before, you know that the decks are just wild because you're literally just working with how many packs did you get?
Yeah,
like 6 packs that you got, and you're like, you just gotta go with it. It was more interesting because I think the last time we did like a online sealed event, everybody got the same Larig deck, more or less. Like you were given the same Larig deck, and this time you're given random centers. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so you get random centers, and you basically just build with what you've got, and and some center L rigs are better than others, for sure.
Yeah.
I got first place. I got Gozuko, and I realized that it was one of the better ones that I could get, just because it had some ability to open lanes, but more importantly had a way to maintain card advantage, which turns out is really hard in this game.
It is really difficult.
So it ended up working well for me. I think Mel probably would have been the best one to open.
I agree. I mean, like, as you know, we have played with Mel in proxy before, and she's very, like, stable. She's a very balanced center in terms of she's got equal amounts of defensive and offensive capabilities. Maybe not like the best of the best, but I'd put her in like A tier.
Yeah. I opened up 2 secret rares. I looked at those secret rares and went, wow, this is terrible for sealed.
Oh no.
And looked at it and was just like, nope, right? Like one of them was Mel's secret rare, which is the actual signet itself, and it was like, when it enters, take the top 2 cards of your deck, put it under it. If they have the same name, it gets Lancer. And I was like, yep.
That's never gonna
happen.
Yeah, there were a couple of cards that I opened up that had like Demon Tribal, Angel Tribal, Atom Tribal, and like I was looking at it like this is never gonna happen.
Yeah,
there was a Terra Beast Tribal in there, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, I ran FE, and it has this ability where you can, when it enters, you can pay 2 enter. If you've got 7 atoms in your trash, you can kill something, right? And I was like, yeah, I just need the black enter.
Yeah,
it's just a vanilla 10,000.
Yeah, it was a little rough.
It was scuffed,
still
but
pretty
it was scuffed
fun,
in the
though.
funnest way possible.
Yeah, if you like sealed events because they're like super wacky, then you'll really like this pre-release format.
Yeah.
And what's cool about like sealed events is that like you can do this with your friends. Like,
Yeah.
if you wanted to, like, in like an unofficial capacity, you can organize this pretty easily with your friends. You can, like, kind of all go in on buying, like, 1 or 2 boxes and splitting up the packs between you.
Yeah.
And you can do, like, a sealed event on your own.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it will be just as fun.
I think there's a future where I kind of make a sealed cube that we
Yeah.
can do, which might be kind of fun. Like, I might just only have life bursts in it anyways.
Oh, yeah, that
And
would be
then-
fun.
And do some kind of thing where it's just like I'll take like the Dragon Shield like cube like things that I have lying around and just put like a couple pre-release kits in there. So like, you know, you open it, oh, here's Guzuko, or you open it, oh, I got Tama, you know, but
Yeah.
it's like random, you know.
Yeah.
You guys shuffle it around which one you get. And then you build around it. I think that might be a fun project.
I
to
think
do
it
at
would be
some point.
fun. Yeah. But, you know, if you're not a big fan of RNG and you really like building super finely tuned decks, then this might not be for you.
totally. Anyways, so
But that was our
guys,
week cross week. It was super fun. Moving on, what is our topic of the day?
Topic of the day is conflicted diva, right?
Conflated?
Conflated diva.
What does conflated mean?
I don't actually
I'm gonna
know.
look it up.
All right, you Google it and then come back with it.
I'll
This is
come back.
Conflated diva. We're going to be talking about the best cards coming out of this set. Now, this is kind of one of the weird ones where, unlike prior, sort of where we look at the cards and we kind of make our best guess based on the Japanese meta a little bit too, we have not only played with this with the pre-release, so we've got a little bit of knowledge base there, but we've been playing with these cards for a long time
For a
now.
while now, because we've been getting ready for the Grand Prix, and of course this set will be available during the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure that we were practicing with the widest range available. That would be available to us by the time that the
Yes.
GP comes around.
So what does it mean?
So conflated means, according to Google, it's a verb, and it means combine 2 or more texts, ideas, etc. into one.
Okay.
That's what it means.
Sure.
It means to combine.
So we're going to combine all of these cards together and see what we get.
Woo!
I'm going to do Tiffany.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the boss rush at the beginning here.
Okay,
I'm going
you
to go
do
ahead
it.
and do our honorable mentions that aren't quite the best cards, but they're worth mentioning
Sure.
ahead of time and just grab them all in as quickly as possible. All right. So the first one we're going to talk about is Carnival, Nanashi, and Guzuko. So these guys are pretty good L-rigs. I think there are better versions of these L-rigs basically found in many other places, but Carnival offers something unique, which is that it's a truly a mid-range or control red center, which doesn't really exist outside of her. So it's worth mentioning. She has some issues where red doesn't necessarily always support that idea to it. You know, you normally are in white, blue, black to do those types of things. But if you wanted to do something similar, but also wanted a little bit more board pressure, then Carnival is a pretty good option as where to go.
Yes.
The
I actually ended up having Carnival for the pre-release sealed, and this would work much better in a non-sealed deck.
That's true. So Nanashi is basically a black version of Akino, where it has the ability to more or less blank out a turn of your opponents trying to mess with your board, and then when your board comes back, it'll be very, very sticky defensive board signies. The reason why I say that it's probably less better than Akino is Akino actually has a pretty good way of opening lanes, whereas Nanashi basically can open a lane once and then be mildly annoying the rest of the turns there. Gozuko is a interesting choice because it is a black, probably aggro card. It's got a lot of trash recursion stuff, but that enter ability is really not that great. Its ability to bring a Signy back from your trash every turn is good, but a little overcosted at 2 enter. And then the fact that you can basically at one time have this explosive negative turn where you could probably wipe the board's state out is really, really good. But when we're talking about black aggro, we also got to bring up Deus as an option here. Probably Deus is probably a little bit better in terms of all of those things.
It's
where it does
certainly
it,
very popular.
yeah, freer. So it's worth mentioning that it exists and you'll see it, but maybe not the greatest. Next thing I'm going to point out is there's some kind of weird options here in blue that you're going to be getting. Indigo Light is an interesting card where it is not quite as strong as H2O, but it finally gives you a reason to play Jewels in general. The idea is that when you're Jewels, whenever they get messed with, and you know, then you end up messing with the opponents. Making the opponent discard a card every time one of your jewel is messed with is pretty cool. Discarding extra cards to find more jewels is pretty cool, but really the draw is the life burst. Draw 2 cards, put up to 1 jewel signy from your hand into the field is a very, very strong life burst. And so this just continues that trend. Again, it's not quite H2O level strong, but pretty good. Cream soda is an interesting one too. I don't think it's fantastic, but other people really like it. Really, the most important part is that life burst, which is that whenever a target Elrig or Signy on the opponent's field would attack this turn, you can negate that attack unless the opponent discards 3 cards. Rarely do people discard 3 cards, and when you're in blue, rarely do they have 3 cards to discard. So it could be an interesting level 1 to fill out lanes. The next one is Donna Cheer Me On, Donna Glittering. To a smaller extent, there is also a Donna that lets you draw 2 cards as long as they match your Elrig color. It's a little bit more difficult unless you're in a mono-colored deck, in which case, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just as good as Lion in that scenario.
Yeah. It doesn't quite get back, in that particular one, it doesn't quite get back guards, but the card advantage is still nice.
Right. So the Donna Cheer Me On, I always talk about how I always am looking for a level 1 Elrig assist that does something and something. And this gains you coins and balances something. So it is good. We just aren't in a world right now where coins are really the best thing in existence. And then Donna Glittering is an interesting Elrig where it's actually pretty good, but it has a very narrow point as to where it's good at. So it's really good in terms of being able to close open lanes and also potentially draw you a guard, as well as some other kind of annoying defensive board signy stuff. But you're going to be in a lot of scenarios when you play this that you're not necessarily needing, like the lanes maybe have assassin in them. You can't stop that. Okay, well, maybe the lanes are not lanes that are open. Instead, we're looking at Tama's double strike here, and, that's not going to stop that either. It's flexible enough in those scenarios that you could probably get a guard and maybe close 1 lane for very cheaply. This is one of the cheapest ways to stop 2 damage against aggro in white. So there's few decks that can really benefit from this line of Donnas in general, but the decks that do are going to enjoy it. And then moving right along into some more of our, you're going to see them here and there stuff. We've got another Donna here. This is the Donna, basically it's Haniel, right? Like this is a 3,000 power Haniel because it for free coins finds you a card on the top 3, and you can put that Signy into your hand. And it also has an added benefit of being able to be a wall if you need it. There are certainly decks that are going to appreciate that. They all need to have coins, though, in order to make them good. So basically, if you're playing coins and you want to play white, I like it, for example, in Mel, because Mel needs card selection and it doesn't really have access to it normally. Donna can be a good choice for that, but you need to be playing coins, and like I said, coins is right now, you're not playing coins to play cards. You have coins on an Elrig you're already trying to play. We've got Werewolf. Werewolf is basically a really good... there's a plethora of these level 3s that can open a lane now for an enter or less than an enter. Werewolf is one of those ones that can do it. It can fuel itself to basically come out of the trash and open up lanes. But realistically, you'd rather have an Elrig that is bringing something back to the field. There's a couple of those black Elrigs that do that now. So Werewolf would be pretty good in those types of decks. But so narrow focus, pretty strong ability. We've got Hatam Hari, who is actually very strong. She is basically Ramel, but for free.
Yes.
And 2 coins to do that. We use that a lot in the pre-release, actually, more than anything else.
The coins really came in handy in the pre-release because you had such a short deck. But she does kind of feel like a free Haniel.
Yeah, just free Ramel, you mean?
Free Ramel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So she ends up being a free Ramel. So if you're in line to have a free Ramel and you've got access to coins, she's very strong. Probably a 3 of in your deck. Speaking of more coins, we've got Aya. This is another one that's pretty good. There's other better uses for coins in blue right now, but Aya's ability to just draw a card upon entering is its action. You can do it once per turn. If it sticks around, you can do it again. Is actually pretty good and pretty annoying. Aya is kind of is a blue card that's anti-blue because it hides cards that you want from the opponent and can avoid some discard. So Aya ends up being, like, if you're in the market for a blue deck teching against other blue cards, it ends up being pretty good. The last one on our rush to the exit here is Nourishment. This is a 1 cost enter charge 2, unless you pay 2 coins, in which case it's an enter charge 3. So basically you get, it's either enter charge 1 or enter charge 2, right? Let's pretend
Because you have to pay for it.
Yeah, you gotta pay for it. So enter charge 1, not super great. Enter charge 2, actually realm of playable. It's not so much that I'm really into it yet. If it was like free and then I paid 2 coins and I got 3 enter from it, like I'm in.
I mean,
that's
that would
like,
be crazy.
I know, that's like rituals and magic. I'm super in. It's worth paying a card there at that point. But you know, you'd rather probably play Cheerin over this because then you get a body and the enter, and you didn't have to play coins. But if you're playing coins, you need enter. This is an option, right? It actually has a really good life burst too of vanishing target Signy at 7,000 or more. I think I'd rather at 5,000 or more, but 7,000 or more is fine. You know,
well, I mean, it's kind of that weird number, so it helps to bridge that gap.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting into the real deal now.
The real deal.
So let's take a little bit of time to talk about these ones. We've got Mel Cheers. Let me just check the next slide to make sure. Oh yeah, I do have them on there. Okay, cool. So we do have the what Mel creates.
The accessories.
Accessories, correct. I'll read this one. Mel
Sure.
Cheers is a level 3 green Elrig that you can enter. And when it does, you create 3 tokens that are accessories. They basically act like souls.
But they're not.
But they're not souls, and they are different because you can't get vanillaed out by a Yuki, for example, for those souls. You have the action ability of, and it's multiple times per turn, not once per turn. You pay a colorless, and then you can take one of your accessories that you created and attach it to a Signy. Once per game, you get the ability of being able to basically say on the opponent's next turn, the opponent can't use actions or spells that turn, which is actually weirdly useful.
It is very useful, especially against something like Tama.
Or Deus,
Or Deus, or even Carnival as well. That's technically an action ability
That's
that you
correct.
have to pay for.
And this is kind of one of the cool Signies where you get at least 3 coins at the start, and then you get 2 coins later down the line. 3 is a lot more than 2, so it's good.
Is it?
Yes, I know it doesn't seem like it, right? Like, 1 coin is basically nothing. 2 coins is like a fair amount. 3 coins is a ton of coins. And then, like, 4 coins, like, no difference between 4 and 3 coins.
You do have to keep in mind that you can only ever have a maximum of 5. So when you think about that, if you are spending coins during the game, I mean, yes, you're right. I would much rather start with 3 than start with 2, or God forbid, 1.
Right.
But it also means that in order to have all 5 coins at one time, you would not be spending any until your third grow. Although what I will say is that if you have coins and you're not spending them, you're not using them correctly.
Right. They're a resource to be used. It's interesting. So many cards use 2 or 3 coins, and basically no cards use 4 coins. So the difference between 3 coins and 4 coins is nothing. There's literally no difference.
Yes.
So 3 coins is a good number. Mel starts out with 3, which is cool because you probably are running white anyways to get some guard stuff, some attrition stuff.
So
some
help pay
filtering.
for your Donnas.
Right. Exactly that. So Mel, while having a cool once per game, which can stop actions for a turn, which is cool because it basically can guarantee you're like, I'm gonna live to next turn, and then I'm gonna kill you.
Yep.
Gets accessories, right? That's its main function.
Yes.
And here are the accessories.
So you've got ketchup, you've got, back fat, and soft boiled egg. I just love that she's a foodie. It's adorable to me.
She cooks.
She cooks, and all of
There's
these.
a picture of her cooking. Ready? Boop.
Aw, Nourishment. So cute.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
Spoilers.
Anyways, so these are the 3 accessories that you get. They're kind of they are not souls, because souls are abilities that you can add on to a Signy.
Yes.
But these are attachments to a Signy.
These also don't go in the Elrig trash when whatever
yeah,
the
they're
Signy
technically
vanishes.
excluded from the game when they're
Correct.
done. Because you can't play them again
Right.
once they've been attached.
But they also don't count. Like, for example, there's some stuff that's like, if you've got Elrig trash that has 5 cards in your trash.
Yeah, so this doesn't go in the Elrig trash.
No.
So basically, we'll just go over these really quickly. Ketchup gives something plus 10.
Yep.
Back Fat gives something Lancer. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And Soft Boiled Egg it kind of is the same ability as like H2O, where it's like if this Signy would be moved from the field, you can exclude this card from the game instead, and then the Signy does not get removed from the field.
Yes, so that includes being vanished from combat, does not include negative effects. Negative effects will basically, well, it kind of does. What it means is that you'd be like, I'm going to exclude this thing, and be like, great, this thing is still 0 and now dies again.
Exactly.
So it doesn't, nothing really kind of gets
it did come up during the pre-release, though, if Aya's ability to flip things over affects this. Because it's technically not leaving the field.
I don't think it does leave because of that. I think it's basically almost like phasing in Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, like it's still there. It's just like... Yeah.
But
let us know in the comment section down below what you think would happen.
And it is worth mentioning, if you're looking at the photo here, you're like, but these are Signies with Signy levels and also powers. No. I guess they're Signy in your Elrig deck, and then when you play them, the only way to play them is as accessories.
Yeah, like they're not Signies. Like you can't, like, I don't...
There might be some wombo combo thing, wacky combo thing in the future if some cards get printed, but for right now, they're just accessories that you put on things.
Right. All right.
But so these are pretty good. I mean, look, they are different than Souls, right? Dea's Souls are the easiest thing to compare them to, or X's Souls. Machina's like, I have Souls too, and we're like, we don't care, Machina, you're an assist.
You're an assist, yeah.
And then these are interesting, right? Like, I was testing a lot for the GP, and a lot of the things that I kept running into was Deus. I could open up lanes, sure, but I needed utility more than I needed opening up lanes, and these things reek of utility.
Oh, yeah. They are super useful. I mean, they are like a once and done use. Like, you can attach them to the Signy, and it will be attached to the Signy for as long as the Signy is on the field.
Yeah, but
but with the way that these things work, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, is that Mel is really good at balancing offense and defense. And you can, I mean, it's like pretty plain as day, in my opinion, what each of these are for. So you've got your Lancer, which is your offense.
Yes.
You've got your soft-boiled egg to stop things from getting removed. That's
offense or defense.
That's defense. And then you can have the plus 10,000, which is both offense or defense.
Right. I would say the egg also is offense or defense, because you could put it in a scenario where if they kill the thing that's in the open lane and has this, you just like, cool, I exclude it, and I'm still attacking you now.
Sure. But you guys can see like how flexible these like can be for your gameplay, especially if you're running them in mid-range, which is very much like it's trying to figure out its timing, and these can really help change the pace of a game.
If you think Phalaris is terrifying with Lancer, which is one of my favorite things to do in WeCross period, check what a 22,000 power Phalaris is terrifying at. You're just like, I've had games where I've done that, and I've just been like, this is going to stay on the field for 3 turns, and I'm going to refresh you twice.
Oh, something else to mention is that you can't attach more than one of these to a Signy.
That's correct.
1 per Signy. That's it. So you can't put a catch-up and a back fat and a soft-boiled egg all in a Phalaris. Yeah. It's not going to work.
So I'm not saying Mel is going to bring Green back from the precipice. One of Green's problems is it has a lack of main deck cards, not a lack of Elrig deck cards. But this does help by giving a very powerful Elrig to choose from. So next we have Orochimaru and Driver's Ed.
Stop sign.
Stop sign.
I call it stop sign because we've been playing with a Japanese proxy that had been translated, and I did not know how to pronounce a Japanese name, so I didn't know what it was going to be translated to in English, so I just called it stop sign.
You also had a nickname for Orochimaru, didn't you?
Okay. Like, again, when you're dealing with like home printed proxies to practice with, like, sometimes the quality of the image is not super great, so I thought that she had like flaming wings, like almost like an angel, I don't know, so I called her Flamey Wings.
Yeah.
That's what the art looked like, and then I looked even closer and it's actually a snake.
It's just a snake. But Orochimaru also is like, I think means snake.
Yeah, so I was like completely off, but now, you know, like that's the neural pathways have already been formed. I can't go back.
I'm well aware that card is not Orochimaru from Naruto, but I've also watched too much Naruto as a kid to say that it's not Orochimaru from Naruto.
Sure. Nerd.
It's fine. I'm playing an anime card game. I
Yeah.
think I can get the nerd title. Hey, Orochimaru's got some abilities.
Sure.
And those abilities are, it's a level 3, 10,000 power, that says, it's a demon for what it's worth. At the beginning of your attack phase, you can choose one of the following. You can either discard 3 cards. If you do, you can bounce a Signy into the opponent's hand. Or you can discard 2 cards and a guard. And if you do that, you can bounce something into the opponent's hand and exclude it from the game, basically. It's got to be 12,000 in power or less, by the way. That did come up once on me. It's worth mentioning. Also worth mentioning, I did find out that if you try to bounce a Penlight with this, Penlight's ability still goes into the bucket and resolves. So it doesn't actually work. Yeah, Wixoss is a weird game, man. So I tried doing that, and that didn't work. So, it's also got an enter ability, which is white and colorless, and you can add target Signy with a guard from your trash to your hand.
Yes, that's its enter ability. So overall, I'm fairly a fan of this card.
I am too.
Sometimes it's a little difficult to play, but it is nice to be able to have some guard recursion on command as long as you can pay for it.
If you are running 4 of this in your deck, it's super wrong. Because it's just like, those abilities are never going to come up enough that you want to do that. Orochimaru is very good at 2 things. 1, you can either play it as a defensive Signy against aggro decks to get a guard back to your hand, or 2, as the final punch for control or mid-range decks to burst through some damage. Basically, for free, right? That's its job. So you're really only looking to play 1 of 2 of this in your type of your deck. A Driver's Ed, though, you've got quite a bit of, we tested in many decks at this point. What does Driver's Ed do?
Well, basically, you're looking at your standard white level 1 utility Signy. And what's great about this Signy is that it's very sticky. If you recall how Zhao Yun operates, this might be even better.
Yeah, they play slightly differently than each other, right? They play in the same world, basically.
Yes, so Zhao Yun has Shadow level 2 or less Signy, whereas Driver's Ed, or Stop Sign, has Shadow level 1, which is Signy and Lyrig.
Elrigs, yeah.
On your opponent's turn, which makes it a very annoying card to deal with from the opponent.
Yeah, there are times where your opponent's playing an aggro deck, right? And they're playing a level, let's say Akino and Tama, right? And their Tama is the one that, target Signy goes to the bottom of the deck. And then the Akino is the one that says target Signy gets bounced. And you play, 2 of these. And they're like, oh, I'm never bouncing anything. I can't break through this. And that's what it's for, right?
It's pretty annoying.
And there are ways that you can keep playing these for a while, right? And when you play this for a while, you end up, You end up basically saying, you'll never be able to do this. A key thing to note is that Machina's ability allows you to kill a level 1 or lower, vanish a level 1 or lower. And if you have this out, you can more or less say, I'm gonna then play level 2s after this, and I'm never letting you grow your level 1. And it's very, very strong if you do that.
Here's the other half of it, is that your opponent, let's say you're playing this, your opponent can still grow their level 1 assist, whatever that might deal with this sort of card, but it's why would you?
Right.
You would just be growing to grow at that point so that you would be able to get to your level 2, and then you're basically denying your opponent its assist Lyrig's utility,
right,
which is good.
To clarify, right, you can grow Akino in front of this and not have a valid target, and then its ability just fizzles.
Yeah.
And then you can continue on your merry way to Akino level 2 if you'd like.
Sure.
But you won't get the effect out of it. And wasting the opponent's effect is good.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Hey, look at that. We've got Flat Throw.
Look at Flat Throw.
So Flat Throw has been tested quite a bit.
Oh, yes, because this seems to be the very popular card that is in Dasharana.
Yeah, it is basically just... So Dash Hirana prior to this was pretty good, but you needed a little bit more damage push than what it's comfortable with, and Flat Throw just sort of gives that to you.
Yeah.
So what Flat Throw does is it says, at the beginning of your attack step, you may discard your hand. If you do, and you discarded 6 or more cards this way, you can crush one of your opponent's life cloth.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I mean, any sort of life cloth crushing that you can do outside of the Lurig battle is pretty good. I mean, that's why... oh man, what's that one piece called? It's not Burning Curiosity. Entwined Supremacy. That's why that piece is so popular, is because you can crush a life cloth and still be able to work with your Lurigs as well.
Yeah, and this arguably crushes the life cloth for free, right? Like, it costs 6 cards in your hand, and that's a real cost. But also, if you're aiming to end the game that turn, it's not a real cost because you'll never need the cards in your hand anyways.
Yeah, I mean, the chances are is that if you have 6 cards in your hand and you're running any sort of red, it's probably because you're waiting to discard it to Flat Throw to crush that life cloth. I highly doubt that you'd be able to crush a life cloth twice with Flat Throw in one game.
You can't, really.
Exactly. So I think that, yes, it's a cost associated with it, but it is technically free.
It's also worth mentioning that it's got a built-in synergy here, which is that if you have no cards in your hand, you can pay red when it attacks. When it attacks, that's more powerful than at the beginning of your attack step, by the way. When it attacks, and you can give it Assassin for red.
Yes.
Which is very, very, very strong. You don't need... Sometimes you're like, I just need the extra damage, I need the Assassin, I'll discard the 2 cards in my hand. Look at that, it still has Assassin now.
Yeah, so as long as you have 0 cards in your hand, you can give it Assassin, which I will say that with a lot of red decks, the way that they operate, like, cards in hand is not exactly a priority for them, so you still get some use out of this card, even if you don't get to crush a life cloth with it.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning, that is a flamethrower if you didn't realize that yet.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Flat Thrower, flamethrower.
Yeah, that should have been real obvious. I really need to take like a microscopic look at the card's art sometimes.
So what's our next card on here?
It is actually, hold on, give me a minute to pronounce this. Kikunojo. Kikunojo. I think.
Yes.
Natural Planet. She's real cute. She's like a little magical girl with a gigantic scythe. So she is a red level 2, 5,000. And it says, action, once a turn, discard a level 1 Signy and banish target Signy on your opponent's field with power 5,000 or less.
So you're gonna see this. It's definitely its time in the spotlight is definitely being taken up by Flat Throw. Flat Throw is a much more powerful card, but this card's fine power level. Like it's above average. You discard a level 1 out of your hand, boom, you can go kill 5,000 health. That's basically a free Lancelot.
Yes, it is. You can also. The way that I was thinking about it is that this does operate a little bit differently than Lancelot. Because it's a action, you can actually use it. The timing is a little bit more flexible.
Yep.
But also, if you're in turns past the point where your opponent has like level 3,000 or less, like Signies, you can discard your Romels and still get use out of them.
Yep. That's also a way that you can use it. Moving right along.
I like flexible cards.
We've got Miko Miko. I'm sure you guys are going to see this more on the opponent's side of the field. Sometimes it's got a lot of abilities, and all of them are pretty okay. They're a little awkward in terms of how exactly they work. Miko Miko, the Memoria, is a level 3 blue with 10,000 power. It's got, as long as the Signy's awakened, you get plus 3,000 power, and it also gains when this Signy is vanished. You can put the Signy from your enter zone to the battlefield downed, unless the opponent discards a card. The auto ability is, at the beginning of your attack phase, the opponent discards a card, and then if they have no cards in their hand, this Signy's awakened. So basically, if you are a discard deck, and you're saying, man, I am sad that all my discard stuff is not defensive, and then I get still blown out by aggro who just empties their hand, this card, let me tell you, is the card for you.
Maybe if you're going up against a Flat Throw that wants to discard your opponent's hand, this might be okay.
Yeah, so this basically says that once it's awakened, which, let's be real, if you're playing this card, you're going to make it awakened every time, will allow you to have a 13k that, if it dies, it comes back on the field.
Yeah.
It's very strong.
I mean, when it dies, it stops being awakened, but you can still bring it back.
Yeah, it stops being awakened until your turn where it awakens again.
Exactly.
It's one of those things where it wakes up, goes to sleep, wakes up, goes to sleep, I guess.
Comes back, doesn't die.
Yeah.
You'd have to exclude it from the game, basically.
Yeah, I wish it said if it would leave the field. Instead it does this, you know?
Yeah.
But, so there's ways you can trash it, you know, and then it dies forever. You can bounce it, dies forever. I guess it dies for a turn. You can do a bunch of different things to sort of get rid of it permanently, but it helps against the red vanish types of effects.
I will say that I haven't exactly been the biggest fan of Awakened Signies overall, because I find that the process of trying to awaken them, like...
arduous.
Yeah, it's almost like not worth the effort. However, like you said earlier, if you're running a discard deck anyways, this is a little bit more flexible for you. Like, it's a little bit more... possible for you to awaken it because you're working within something that your deck is already built to
Bingo.
do.
Yep, that's exactly it. Awaken, in order for Awaken to be any good, it needs to be either A, naturally like occurring already in the deck, where Awakening is just awoke the minute it came out, just didn't know it yet, or it's got to be an easy thing. In Japan right now, I think the set that's coming out, set 14, has some cards in it that can get awakened by you downing both your assist rigs, basically. And, okay, cool, that's an easy way to awaken things, so it's trivial at that point. We've got some green cards here. I'm
Look
happy.
at how, like, colorful these are.
I know, I'm actually genuinely thrilled that there are 2 green cards on here, and they're both pretty good. So, green is slowly but surely getting some good main deck cards here. And I do think Compatra is a really good one, as well as Fleming. Compatra is a cool one. Compatra says that at the beginning of your opponent's turn, during your opponent's turn, you Signy on your field, and this includes her, right? That's the thing. It doesn't say other Signy on your opponent's field. It says Signy on your opponent's field, gain Shadow level 1 and Shadow level 2. Not Shadow Signy, by the way. Shadow level 1, Shadow level 2. So it's not quite good. You'd rather just Shadow, right? But Shadow level 1, Shadow level 2 on the opponent's turn.
That covers a lot.
Covers a lot.
I mean, especially because, like, the assists only grow to level 2.
That's correct. So that's pretty strong. And it itself also has Shadow level 1 and Shadow level 2. So innately a pretty good defensive Signy. However, the real reason you might want to run it is the other 2 steps in here. It's got an auto ability of whenever this card is put into the trash from a zone from your opponent's effects, okay? Put into a trash. When it's milled, when it's discarded, or if it's put into a trash from the field.
But
right?
not when it's used to pay.
Not when it's used to pay, because it's got to be by your opponent's effect.
Got it.
You may pay colorless. If you do, you can add this card from the trash to your hand. So basically, you know how Monoman's a pretty good card, and you know how in green you probably have Enter to spare. You can be like, nope, you're not discarding my hand down. I'll discard the Compatra. Cool, I'll bring it back for an Enter. You know, and that's actually a really cool anti-discard tech.
It's also very green. Like, being able to recur things for green is really important, especially since maybe this won't come out of your Enter zone.
Yeah.
And you're just paying for it to come back. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And then you've also got the Life Burst on it, which is a pretty solid but normal Life Burst. You know, you can either vanish target up on your opponent's field or Enter charge 1. Green actually has a distinct lack of good level 3s that also have Life Burst. So not a bad call to have this. Plus 12,000 power is a decent range. It's not like these other utility level 3s that have 10,000 power. 12,000 power is a good number.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty much top of the line at that point.
Yeah. And then we got our level 1, and it's always good to see more level 1s in green because there's not very many good ones.
So we've got Fleming Jade Wisdom. Hold on, I can't read. All right. It says, auto, at the beginning of your attack phase, if you have exactly 5 cards in your life cloth, Enter charge 1. If you have exactly 4 cards in your life cloth, draw a card. Now, why is this one on the list?
So it's a level 1 utility in green, which green distinctly...
Oh, it's got 2,000 power.
...distinctly lacks utility effects, right? If I were to say, hey, Tiffany, would you play a level 1 that Enter charges you? You'd be like, yeah.
Yeah.
If I was like, hey, Tiffany... would you play a level 1 in green that draws you a card?
Sure.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Like, these
Yeah.
are both good effects.
This one just seems to have a very specific contingent to it. But are you saying that because it's a level 1, you're more likely to have that sort of, what's it called, like life cloth ratio to be able to do the effect?
Yeah, dear selectors, you can't see me nodding my head, but yes, the answer is yes. Because it's level 1, it means it'll be out there at the time where you have a 5 or 4 life cloth.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 or 4 life cloth is a weird number because that's sort of the most common number that you're at. Like, mid-game, you're at 4.
Mm-hmm.
Early game, you're at 6 or 5,
Yeah.
especially against an aggro deck. You're like, that's sort of where you hover.
Right. And because this is a level 1, you can play it at any time. So if you are able to hold off your opponent from crushing life cloth for like a couple turns, which isn't out of the ordinary, especially in some of the games that I've seen for this meta, you'll be able to enter charge like multiple times potentially.
Exactly. I think it's a pretty good utility card. Yes, it is contingent, and that's always going to hold it back a bit. It doesn't have to just say those things straight up. But I think it'll be a nice little role player in green decks that you might be wanting to build.
We love Justice for Green. What else we got?
So we got Nanashi and its sort of partner, Signy Ogana.
Oigana.
What's interesting about Oigana is that it is probably just a better Signy on its own without the Nanashi.
Oh.
But it's just a strong card on its own, regardless, right? So Nanashi is a good utility or tech card you can throw into your deck if you're running black, even if you don't have coins. It's one of the few cards where I think it may be actually the only card that I've ever said that has a coin cost, and I'm like, yeah, I'd run that in a deck without coins.
Wow.
So it's level 3 black Signy, 10,000 power. It's once per turn. Action ability is that you can pay coin. If you do, you can give a Signy on the opponent's field negative 5,000.
That's pretty good.
Already, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So if you're in coins, and you're running black, this is a good card to run. I probably would run this. Mm-hmm. Then it has some more effects that say at the beginning of your attack step, put the top card of your deck under this Signy, face up, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just basically counting cards. Whenever the Signy attacks, up to 2 Signy the opponent's controls gets negative 3,000 power for each card under this Signy till end of turn.
Right. So if you have 1 card under the Signy, you can give 2 Signy minus 3,000 on your opponent's field. If you have 2 cards under this Signy,
negative 6,000.
You negative for 2 cards on your opponent's field.
Right.
That's a wide range of damage.
Right, and if you have coins, you can give something negative 8,000 and another thing negative 3,000, right? That'll kill a level 2 and a level 1 most times. So you've got to recognize that most level 1s that we're playing right now that are utility level 1s are 3,000 power. So you're gonna nab probably a level 1 for free with this ability, just on its own. There are times you're gonna catch your opponent off guard. You're gonna nab 2 level 1s. That's gonna be great.
Yeah. Opening up 1 lane for free, pretty good. Opening up 2,
insane.
Amazing.
Insane. So the problem is that it's one of those cards that once you start playing it and once people start playing against it, they're going to get wise to it. They're going to put out their level 2s instead. So it is worth mentioning that it's not an amazing card on its own. If you have the coins, it is an amazing card. I will just straight up say it's a fantastic card. If you're running coins. If you're not running coins, it's a pretty good tech card to add into your toolbox.
Sure.
But the thing we really need to talk about is Oigana.
So Oigana, Natural Bacteria, is a level 1 black Signy at 2,000 power. Its enter ability is discard a black card. Target Signy on your opponent's field gets minus 3,000 power until end of turn. So this is pretty good. It's kind of like that other red card that we had mentioned earlier, but this is your level 1.
Yes.
So it almost acts like a black-colored Ramel.
Yes. Probably slightly better.
Maybe a little better?
Yeah. It is a real cost. It has to be a black card, but discarding a card is pretty trivial.
Sure. Especially for black, I feel, because you're kind of getting stuff back all the time. But what's cool about this is that it also has an auto ability, which is whenever Nanashi Memoria Bacteria Queen enters your field, you may pay 1 colorless. If you do, put this Signy on the field under that Signy. So you can put Oigana under Nanashi and activate Nanashi's abilities.
Right.
For 1.
I think you could Voltron up if you really want to.
Voltron?
I've never done it in any of the testing, but I've never seriously tried either.
I don't think we've really built a deck around this particular thing.
If I was playing a black deck, I'm probably playing Ogana, right? So if I decide I'm also got coins and I want to add Nanashi to it, I'm sure I will do this a significant amount of times.
Sure.
Especially because you could enter, discard, then do it, right? Meaning you get the full effect of basically everything. You're not losing anything by doing it. So I think it's probably pretty strong. But Oigana on its own is going to be just strong enough.
Yes.
Basically, black aggro decks have been waiting for this card to exist. Black mid-range decks are excited as hell that this card exists.
Yes.
Some control decks might even start trying to run some of these. It's just like, I just need a little bit more lane opening, and I needed something cheap and black, and this is it.
I'm excited because she has cute curly ram horns.
Also true.
And I really like that.
I genuinely do like the art on this one.
Yeah, she's really cute.
So I think it's pretty fantastic. I'm also a pretty big Nanashi fan, just in general. I'm happy to see it. To see the Nanashi support is good.
All right. What else we got?
I think we got one more.
Ooh, are these spells?
One is a spell.
One is a spell. All right.
Okay, so Maho Maho is a pretty quick and easy one to talk about. It's a level 2, 5,000 power that has the an auto ability of whenever this attacks, put the top 4 cards of your opponent's deck into their trash unless your opponent discards a card. Generally speaking, your opponent's going to let you put the top 4 every time. So this is a level 2 that mills your opponent 4, which is just enough to mean it's actually pretty good. Milling 4 is like the bare minimum a level 2 needs to do for it to be a good amount, that once you add, I don't know, something like Ultra Superheroes or something, you can mill them out completely. There was no time. Salvage the Future, which is a mill 15 effect, was bad. Mill 15 always milled your opponent out. Oh my goodness,
that is just so many cards.
Always milled your opponent out. Mill 10 is not always a mill. Mill 14 is probably always a mill.
If you don't mill your opponent with this and a
Ultra Superheroes or Death Deck or something,
or like a Phalaris or any of those, like the opponent will draw themselves out the next turn.
The next turn, most likely.
Right.
And honestly, if your opponent discards a card due to this effect to not mill, that's awesome. Good for you. Yay.
Because then they don't have cards in their hands.
Yeah, if you were a deck that's running this for the mill, you're also probably running discard anyways, so like you're probably happy with either option. But the other one is a spell. What's that one?
So this one is called Prison Please.
That's a good spell.
It is a black spell, costs 1 black, and this one has coin bets on it, which is different than just paying with coins. You're actually kind of like betting on something to get the full effect of this, but you're still going to get an effect out of it.
You can pay for it, you cannot, your choice.
Yes. So you coin bet 2, and it says target Signy on your opponent's field gets minus 7,000 power until end of turn. If you made a bet, target Signy on your opponent's field gets minus 12,000 power until end of turn. It also has a life burst. It says target Signy on your target Signy on your opponent's field gets minus 15,000 power until end of turn.
So sometimes you just need a little bit more push in terms of damage, right? And we had Digger for a while, which basically you exceed and you give something, I think, negative 15k, which is pretty good. But if you don't exceed, I think it's only negative 5,000, which doesn't always get the job done.
No, not exactly, especially in later games.
An Enervating Melody also existed, to call back set 1, which was pretty good. It was a spell with a life burst, which, generally speaking, you like your spells to have life burst. And it cost 1 black and would allow you to do negative 8,000 to a Signy if you were running Diagram. If you weren't running Diagram, it does negative 5,000 to a Signy, or maybe negative 6,000, which is not quite enough to
Yeah.
kill the things that you probably want to kill.
It's a bit of an odd number.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's an even number, like, don't come for me. But, like, you know, it's a uncomfortable, awkward number in Wixoss.
Yeah, negative 7,000 catches enough now that you're basically like, this always kills a level 1. Always, right? And that is enough. So Prison Please is a upgrade to that card. Yes, if you have coins, it's a strict upgrade to that card.
Yeah.
But even without coins, you might need just another way to push damage that isn't a Signy or isn't a level 1 or something, and you need a bit more of a power to it.
And it's relatively cheap. Like, it's only 1 black.
Correct, yeah, it's cheap.
Like, even if you're not running coins, it's only 1 black.
Yeah.
Do you remember in set 0 when spells cost, like, 4 Ener?
Yes.
It was ridiculous.
5 Ener, yes.
Oh, God. It was terrible. Anyways. But yes, Prison Please is one of the spells that we think will be good. Other than that, what else?
That's it. That's
That's
all.
it.
That's all of the cards we think are pretty good in Wixoss.
If
at
you,
least in this set.
in the Conflated Diva set, if you guys have any cards that you feel we missed, please leave them in the comment section down below. You know, we love reading all of your comments. You guys are smarter than us sometimes, and you give really good suggestions down below. In the meantime, please subscribe if you like this podcast so you never miss one, and also check out our community tab where you can have discussions with us and vote on our upcoming Versus videos. And with that said, may you always flip a life burst.